Okay, everyone, welcome. Thank you all so much for coming today. We are so excited to be here with you. And sorry for starting a little bit late. We wanted to get everything going on Facebook Live. So welcome everybody that's on Facebook Live and also everybody that's joined the Zoom webinar. So we're very excited to have you. And we have an awesome panel of guest speakers today. So I just want to introduce your host. So I'm Lynne Venart. I'm a co-founder and the digital manager for the Lemur Conservation Network. And we have Lucia Rodriguez. Lucia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lucia, and I'm the director of the LCN.
And Seheno?
Hello everyone, I'm Seheno. I'm the Madagascar manager of Lemur Conservation Network and also the in-country director of Lemur Love. You are so lucky and so happy to have your guest speakers today. So we let them to introduce themselves. Let's get started. We will start with you, Dr. Sylviane Volampeno. Could you please introduce yourself to your audience?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Sylviane Volampeno. First of all, I would like to thank the Lemur Conservation Network for giving me this opportunity to be among the panelists. I'm a Malagasy primatologist. I'm a part-time lecturer at the University of Antananarivo, and I'm the co-founder of the Mikajy Natiora Association.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sylviane, for joining us today. And we have also Dr. Edouard Luis from Madagascar Biodiversity Partnership. We are so happy. Thank you so much to join us. Could you please introduce yourself to your audience, Ed?
I'll be happy to. Thank you first for inviting myself to this panel. It's a really good honor to be here. And anyway, I'm actually director of conservation genetics at Omaha's Henry Doherty Zoo and Aquarium, but I'm also the founder and general director of the Madagascar Biodiversity Partnership. We work all over Madagascar. We also have 4 permanent sites that we do conservation genetics, we do community-based programs, we also do reforestation. The whole idea is to leverage critically endangered lemurs or other animals to help the community to restore the habitat. Thank you.
Well, wonderful, thank you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Also, we have Susie Lewis from Conservation Fusion. Thank you so much, Susie. Could you please introduce yourself to your audience?
Yes, good morning or good evening or afternoon. I'm Susie Lewis and I work at Conservation Fusion. We're an international education-based nonprofit and we work right alongside Ed's team at the MVP, working with schools and women's organizations, and everything we're doing is just conservation, education, and collaboration. So we're all about creating a balance between people, wildlife, and the environment. Thanks so much for having us today.
Wonderful, thank you. And finally, we have also Dr. Tsiory and Janavanna from ExplorerHome Madagascar. Thank you so much, Tsiory. Could you please introduce yourself to your audience?
Yes, thank you, Seheno, for the introduction. I'm honored to be part of the panelists today. Thank you, Lemur Conservation Network, for inviting me. I'm a paleontologist. I studied paleontology in the University of Antananarivo, and I'm also the co-founder of an NGO, Malagasy NGO, ExplorerHome Madagascar Science Center. What we do is science education and outreach and science communication. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. We're so excited to have you. So I just wanted to quickly talk about how things are going to work today. So we have a few questions we're going to ask of all of our guests about what's working in lemur conservation that they see and what makes them feel optimistic. What directions should we be going? And then also, how can all of us help, whether we're in the scientific and conservation community or everybody else that's interested in lemurs in Madagascar. And then we'll be taking some questions from the audience. We have Laura Howard here from the Lemur Conservation Network. She's going to be helping out with Zoom and the chat. So Laura, can you just let us give some people some tips on that?
Absolutely. So for the folks who are joining us today on Zoom, a couple of things. We're going to be doing Q&A, take questions from the Q&A option. So that is at the bottom of your screen. You may have to make your screen a little bigger or click more to get to the Q&A. That lets you ask questions to our panelists. It also lets you can upvote if you see a question someone else has asked and you're interested to hear the answer, you can upvote it. If you have any technical questions, use that directly to the panelists. Another thing, if you're on Zoom and you want to change kind of the view, if the slide is too small or too big, or you can go up to view options, and that lets you change things. If you are joining us from Facebook Live, feel free to ask questions in the comments. I will be monitoring that and bringing that over to the Zoom so they'll all be in one place. And if you have any questions, throw them in the chat either on Facebook or on Zoom. I will be here answering technical questions. We'll be kind of doing the Q&A at the very end. So if you have questions during the presentations, feel free to write them right away so you don't forget. And if you have a particular person you want to answer them, you can say, this is for, you know, Seheno, or this is for whoever. So that right person can answer it. Great,
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Laura. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can all chat a little easier, and then Lucia is going to take over.
Okay, well, thank you so much for everybody to be here. We feel super honored and super grateful for having you here. And I think today is going to be, we are going to have a really great chat about lemur conservation and about how we should be optimistic about it. And I don't think that that's usually what we find where we're talking about lemur conservation. And I think that optimism today is one of the things that we need the most. And based on all of your amazing experience, the first question is, what do you think that it's working today for lemur conservation, and why do you feel optimistic about it? So if we can start with Dr. Sylviane.
Okay, thank you, Lucia. I would say working for lemur conservation is challenging. It's not easy. As you know, we know that in spite of the increase of number of species, we have now about 113 species. Unfortunately, the problems, the major problems are increasing too. There is now 10% of the original forest left now. That's why I'm saying it's challenging, but we should not give up about that. Why I'm saying challenging? Because first of all, you need to have time, you have to be patient, you have to be responsible. But I think that I feel optimistic. Why? Because now the decision makers, the government, are now starting to get involved. I don't know if you've heard that last year, the government make a big challenge. They say that they would like to plant about 6 million of trees. We know that without trees, there is no lemur. So this is a great idea. That's why I'm saying I'm feeling optimistic now. And most of Malagasy people are now becoming aware about why the lemurs are the value, they are the richness of the country, despite it is a poor country, but it is very rich in terms of biodiversity. So I would say that people now, mainly young people, because if at the university, many people have no PhD in zoology, in primatology. It means that young generation are now starting to be interested on lemur, on conservation, and everyone know that it makes proud the country. Most of the tourists who are coming to visit Madagascar, they are going, why? to see the lemurs in the forest. So for me, it's challenging, but we never give up, and we have to be responsible. We need time, and applying for a grant is challenging. It's not easy because you need funding to do, if you would like to implement a project for community development, for alternative livelihoods, for health, for school, you need funding. And you know that with this pandemic disease, it's a bit difficult, that we have to be strong and to have a patience about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Susie, what do you think it's working, and why do you feel optimistic?
Yeah, I think that it's working, and now for me, conservation NGO have to work with communities and with decision makers. So I think that's the key, because NGOs, conservation NGO may fail the conservation success without the local community support. We know that the local community lived surrounding the forest for 400 years. We know that they are illiterate, they are not intelligent, but they are smart. They use the natural resources for many years, but they need support from the NGOs. And without the decision makers, without the government, we fail as well. Why? Because, for example, within a forest, if there are some hunters who hunt lemurs, who cut the trees, the local communities report to the NGOs. The NGOs cannot put these people to the jail, but they have to report to the gendarme or the ministry. That's why I think that the key is that the combination of conservation NGOs plus local communities plus the decision makers. And you know that the actual Minister of Environment and Sustainable Use, I think that she, among the 15th minister in Madagascar, I think that she's the first, a very technical minister who knows what is working, what is not working. So that's why I'm feeling it optimistic, not that at least we have now the decision makers who are aware, who understand what's going on.
That's very good. That's very good. Thank you a lot, Sylviane. Susie, what about you? What do you think it's working, and why do you feel optimistic?
I agree with Sylviane. Like, I think it's so important that we involve local communities, and I think that's what works. And I think it's so important that instead of just like coming in with a plan, that we are involving the local community and other stakeholders, like she mentioned, the government, so that everybody's on the same page, and that we're also addressing like some basic needs for people. And I think that's one of the things that's really changed in conservation over the last decade, is that it's not really just about saving lemurs, it's about creating this cohesiveness between people, the wildlife, and our planet as a whole. So we can look at things in different ways, as Sylviane mentioned, looking at health, the health of the forest, the health of the lemur populations. And when those things are healthy, the people are more healthy. And when we actually talk to the people and truly listen, they're telling us that what they care about is keeping their family happy and healthy. And so I think when we can look at things from different perspectives and make sure we're addressing basic needs, and involving the local community in the process of conservation and offering tangible benefits, then I think we have a better chance for success. And of course, I think a big part of that is education. So sometimes, just the more people can know, the more that they can make better informed decisions for themselves. And I truly believe like the future of lemurs is in the hands of the Malagasy people, who have the biggest influence.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Dr. Tsiory, what do you think? What is working for lemur conservation, and why do you feel optimistic?
Okay, thank you. I agree with Volampeno and Susie. In my opinion, I have because I'm not really in the lemur conservation area, if I can say that. I have this view of from a scientist and from an educator. So from someone who is working with the next generation of scientists. So I would say I really like to see so many stakeholders working on lemur conservation. That's the first thing. We have the government, NGOs, involving local community, and I think it's a really good strategy. But something we should also think about is how to educate this young generation of Malagasy people, not only the ones who are living next to the area where there are lemurs, but also those in the big cities. And that's where we work with ExplorerHome. We are trying to inspire those future decision makers on how important are the Madagascar biodiversity richness. Some of them, we are working mostly with high school students, and some of them just hear about lemurs in the radio or see them in documentaries. Many of them haven't seen lemurs for real. So there's a part of this Malagasy population also that needs to be aware, not only by looking at videos on TV, but really, how can I say that? Really seen by themselves, because they are in the big city and they have the most chance to continue their education till university, let's say, and they will have the opportunity to act for the conservation of those Madagascar richness. Yeah, I think that's how I am optimistic about the lemur conservation.
And do you think that every time there is more access to lemurs, there is more opportunities for people that lives in the city to be able to have real interactions with lemurs?
No, there's not enough. But that's the thing. It's something we should really work on, and my organization is working on. So we are bringing students from the capital, from Antananarivo, to places where they can see lemurs in the wild. I don't mean in a park close to here in Antananarivo, but really really in the forest. And of course, to interact with the local community and to exchange, because when you involve, that's why I like working with teenagers and youth. I mean, because when they are talking to each other, there is a certain types of message that you, as an adult, as a scientist, couldn't share. They have their own words, and to see them interact with the local people, it's really important. And I think it's a strategy that is working, but we need more of that.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Ed, what do you think? What's working and why do you feel optimistic?
I think this is a really good topic, given the past year. 2020 has been an eye-opener for everyone. I think it shows where our weaknesses are, more so worldwide economically, but it also shows you how poorly we've been planning in conservation. So I think this is a really good topic to start looking at things that are working and how to be optimistic. I've worked in Madagascar for 21 years, and it's spent a lot of time. This is the first year in 21 years that I'll only spend 2 months in Madagascar, and I don't know really when I'm going to be getting back. I'm pushing it as hard as I can, but I think one of the amazing thing that's happened, just look at the IUCN lemur status updates, you know, starting in 2006, that was the first one I attended, then 2012, and then 2018. I'm really emboldened by the feeling that there are a lot more Malagasy scientists participating in this, because of the first one, it was, you know, maybe a handful, and now it was dominated, which I loved. I thought that was great. We had a lot of really good interaction. We had a lot of good talks, discussion points, and that's where the framework of all this information starts. I'm also excited about reforestation. We've been doing reforestation for the past 10 years, and we've been trying to just basically put, you know, get science involved and do the background work on it, but it just matters to put as much or as many trees in the ground as possible as fast as we can by working with the community. Because if you don't work with the community, we can put 6 million trees in the ground, but if you're not working with them, explaining to them how to use them, how that's going to benefit them, then it's going to be lost. And this is where I think, as a community, a scientific community and conservation community, you know, we're at a good point now. We should be, you know, advocating to be using endemic trees. We should be really trying to work with local communities and local NGOs, which there are many of them working all over the place who work together. This conservation community and scientific community is very much involved with each other and work and overlap. So doing it regionally and locally would be really the big key for this to work. And I agree with all the other panelists that have spoken so far that this is a time that we need to do education, and we got to do a multi-tier approach. I think one of our issues now is that we really didn't plan. We put all our money into ecotourism, and whether it's hotels or national park systems, but a lot of conservation organizations are hurting financially with operations, keeping salaries going, things like that. But this is even locally at national park systems where guides are not getting income. So how do we fix that? I think this is where the community and this kind of communication can really help and move things forward from now on.
Great. And the reforestation in Madagascar currently is super interesting because a lot of people are moving to that direction. My question is, have you seen changes of behavior, of shift of patterns in relation of reforestation? And because taking into account that the biggest threat for lemur conservation is deforestation. So how are we changing that behavior, and what's changing in sense of as a community? Because I understand it's key to work reforestation with the communities in order to work, but what is going on to actually enhance a change of behavior and to actually protect these new trees that are coming up?
Well, I think a lot of it is how we engage with the community. We, you know, I gave a talk 12 years ago about what I would do, and my background is veterinary medicine and PhD in genetics. So, you know, it's basically on-the-job training. But I had a common sense idea that we had to have a permanent site on the ground. We have a great conservation credit program that actually is meant to get participation. We have over 4,000 people that are engaged. They all have a lanyard with their ID and their barcode. And so they're getting a wage to plant the trees, so they're automatically getting some type of income, even during this pandemic. It also it starts them to participate in these programs long-term. We also have the credit program, which allows them to save, so they can do sewing machines. So when this pandemic started to really affect the world, even back in March, we had a fundraiser and we did masks, and the women who had earned credits and cashed them in for sewing machines made income for making the mask. And so it really kept, and that trickled down to other programs, and we sent masks to our other field sites that didn't have that kind of infrastructure or opportunity. So I think once you do that, we were before planting around 70,000 trees a month. Locally, we've gone down, we've ticked down a little bit. We're probably around 60,000 a month. It's increasing over time, but a lot of that we have to do social distancing, which we changed all our patterns. But the amount of people that are coming in and wanting to participate is the key. we have forests you can walk in. We have corridors we can walk in. We have lemurs moving in. We've got a lot of places, even like Cass, where we've seen greater bamboo lemur, gentle bamboo lemur, mouse lemurs, falchial dwarfs, all moved into this forest. And so it happens rapidly. It happens slowly, but it happens rapidly. And a lot of it's just continuing to keep on putting, what I say, good pressure on reforestation, putting the natural and trying to make it natural as possible. When it's going to be impossible to recreate a forest that was been burned down to the ground, but you can add agroforestry into it, and so they can have income, a lot of things. So it's really involved, but that's why you have to have the community involved. Without them, you have no hope.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. That was great.
If I may say real fast, I think, like, in a nutshell, just back to that cohesiveness between people and wildlife, I think it's so important to provide tangible benefits to local people, because they are living in, a lot of them, in extreme poverty. And so when conservation actually can make their daily life better, I think we have a greater success.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Sen, what do you think? Why do you feel optimistic about lemur conservation, and what do you consider that it's working?
Well, yeah, thank you. I'm agree with all of your panelists when we say that we should work with local communities. I would say, as a Madagascar manager of LCN, our work is, one part of your work is to increase Malagasy conservation visibility, so they can increase their capacity to provide more awareness and education related to lemur conservation. And I'm so agree with all of what was mentioned, because I truly believe it's really important to connect everyone who works on lemur conservation in one place, like what we do at the LCN. And I would say it makes me very optimistic, because I think that being LCN members, organizations, they can show up their commitment. Local stakeholders, they can have a part of responsibility to the lemur conservation, and they can feel that they have a place, they have a role in conservation management. And from my personal perspective, I think that this approach to make the Malagasy local people at the heart of the management, of the conservation management, I think it's a key. And it was mentioned by all of your panelists. So for me, that's makes me very optimistic. Working for LCN and Lemur Love, it makes me optimistic, because we want to support, to help Malagasy conservation organizations, Malagasy Wang researchers, and also local people. And we are aiming to have this inclusive approach.
Great, thank you very much. And as for all of you, do you think that in Madagascar there are some systematic structural changes in lemur conservation that is actually changing? Because Sylviane mentioned the government, for example, how the government is now committing to more lemur conservation efforts. Do you think that's something that overall systematically it's changing in Madagascar?
Me first?
Whoever wants to respond.
I would say yes, because a typical example is about the celebration of the World Lemur Festival. You know, this year, it's now the 7th or the 6th, I think it is the 7th edition. And that's the first time that the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Use would like to be the leader. So this is not a good example, as I mentioned earlier. So I think that it's starting to have a change now. And I don't know, maybe you don't see the news, but now the Ministry of Higher Education now, the National Education now, not the high, with the Ministry a collaboration between two ministries, Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Use and Ministry of Education. They would like now to involve students, pupils from the primary school. So one pupil, one tree. So they would like now to implement a reforestation program within school in Madagascar. So I would say there is no, it's starting now a change. Okay. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Somebody else wants to add to that comment?
I will. I'll say, yeah, I do agree. And I just going back to what was said earlier about connecting kids to nature, I think is really important. We see that behavior change. A lot of people who have positive experiences with nature in their childhood are more likely to take conservation action later in their life. So I think that's really important. About getting even those, not just the rural kids, but the urban population involved in lemur conservation. And I think that actually social media has played like a huge role. And, you know, you can go to the very most remote areas of Madagascar and people still have a cell phone and they're still on Facebook. And so I think that things like the Lemur Conservation Network or having people connected in a way that they never have been in previous times also provides some hope and can help us like spread conservation messages a little bit more.
Great, thank you. That's really encouraging for us. So thank you. So the next question. Oh, sorry. Do you want to say something?
Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Just to add something. I was about to mention this effort from the government and about the one student, one tree in Madagascar. It has started a little bit this month, I think. I really think it's a good strategy, and something we need to add to that is how to make it continuous, how to keep the effort, and how we all as stakeholders should keep a great effort to maintain this this rhythm. That's really important too. Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next question is, what do you think, or how can the scientific and conservation community can help right now? What else? Because we know that there's been a huge scientific and conservation community working in the area for many years now. But what's needed? Where are the gaps? What do we have to do to actually improve the condition of lemurs today, or the reason to be a little bit more optimistic about lemur conservation? What the scientific and conservation community can do? If we want, Dr. Tsiory, do you want to start?
Yes. Again, from my point of view as an educator and as a program officer of ExplorerHome, something we are doing now is working closely with scientists for them to be in the front line to share the scientific knowledge and the passion for science for the large public. And I think it's a strategy that is really working, and it can work. It works regarding all the scientific field that exists. Something we noticed, we are mostly using our social media network. We are now also on radio. So we are really trying to spread the message from scientific for the large public. And this is something I think should be done more widely. Why? Because we in class, students are interacting with their books and their teachers. Teachers are there to help transmit the knowledge. If we are talking about, let's say, natural science, in class. But we found with our program that it's more efficient if scientists are actually sharing those knowledge with the help of the educator, the teacher. It's more impactful to the students because they see the scientist as role model. And we can use this strategy in lemur conservation. We are doing, for example, we are working, for example, with primatologists, ornithologists, herpetologists, and we really feel that connection between the students and the scientists. And I think it's something we should do in a larger scale.
Great, thank you. Sylviane, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that I agree with Tsiory, but I can add something else. I think that sharing experiences, sharing knowledge, that's the key. And the scientific community should work together to be collaborators, not competitors. Because if there is competition, everyone would like to do this and this. So I take an example of the reforestation of MVP, which is, I would say, it's a success story. I've been in Nyanza-Vato, and as part of my job, I'm a consultant at the ICN, and one of my roles is to work with the several species Lemur initiative. So I can say that why in some species, in some study areas, reforestation fails. So they should learn each other. They should share experience, because if every AGO replicate what MVP is doing in Nyanza-Vato, in Montagne de France, Madagascar will become a green again. So sharing experiences, be collaborative, working together, sharing experience, that's the key.
And do you think that the scientific community in Madagascar is collaborating more now?
To be honest, not really, because as I said, everyone wants to do this, and I don't know if you notice that now people are starting now to create an association and NGOs. So there is the competition, and sometimes doing one work and there is a continuation. For example, okay, they are passionate, they are exciting, but there is not really a motivation. You have to be dedicated about lemur conservation. Why you would like to do this? Not, okay, X person is doing this, why not me? So you have to think like you have to think about the country, the next generation. So now, as I said, people are now, since there is a celebration of World Lemur Festival, I can say that the scientific community is now growing and starting to work together. A typical example, as Ed says, that now there is more Malagasy prima specialist group who attend the ICN red listing assessments. For me, I attended the first time in 2012, and even at the International Primatological Society Congress, there are now many Malagasy primatologists who present their work. So yeah, so I think that it's starting now. Yeah.
Okay, good. Dr. Ed, what do you think?
I agree completely with Sylviane. I really like what we're doing. We're starting to work a lot more locally and expanding it. The point about expanding and getting larger areas is you can only go so far as the funds go, and you sort of end up diluting yourself and you end up hurting yourself in the long run. But I think that anything I can say about reforestation is you got to build from this bottom up. You can't just start, I'm going to plant 1 million trees. You got to sort of build up the infrastructure and the capacity and the training. And that's a lot of the things we're doing. One of the things that came out of this pandemic is that we have a lot more local community and leadership, because for months, for 5-6 months, Tana was isolated. We could not ship supplies down to Kinshasa through Venart. We couldn't send things up north to Monte de Frances. We couldn't even send anything to Moramanga to get to Tordo Futsi. So, and you know, God forbid, trying to get something to the southwest to Lavavulu. You know, so it really, one thing I got optimistic about that is that our leaders, our managers, and our staff really stepped up. They found solutions when we didn't have enough money for this and that. They found solutions within the thing, and that was really, really inspiring to me. And it continues to be. We have some really good leaders, and they've done a tremendous job. That's the only reason that we're actually maintaining these programs during this financial crisis, through this pandemic. So I think that is one of the big keys that we have, is local leadership and getting it. We have some great students that haven't finished their PhDs, but they've learned a lot of practical knowledge about just managing people and managing situations. And I think that's priceless. They're going to be able to do this kind of work when things resume to whatever normal we come to.
So you think that this pandemic can actually be an opportunity for further collaborations and enhancement of local leaders in Madagascar?
I think it's going to have to be. We have no choice. There's no way that any of these NGOs in Madagascar can go back and expect to have the funds they had before. There's too many financial crises with loss of jobs all over the world, loss of life. I think this is going to be the key, and I think Sylviane is correct. We're going to have to help each other. That's the only way we're going to be successful in bringing back habitat. And it can't just be, we work in a lot of fragmented areas, and the national park systems are going to have to work communities a lot more and build buffer zones. I think one of the most, the ironic thing about how we do conservation, I always think about the 2003 and the expansion of the national parks. There's only like, I think it was like that point, there was 3 million hectares, and then they wanted to expand it to triple it, and they succeeded that. But the problem is that Madagascar is not a country that can go to the grocery store and buy most of those. Most people have to get in line, go to the markets, things like that. They're all about subsistence farming. And that means going into the forest also. And when you had all that taken away from you and you have no resource because everything got burned down or taken from national parks, we didn't plan ahead or didn't subsequently or simultaneously start planting trees. We should have been doing that. It's one of my favorite proverbs, is when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When is the best time? Today. And so I think this one tree, one student idea is fabulous. I hadn't even heard about that. And we have a lot of primary schools do planting we always do it every January, February, and March in our area. And the kids love it. They get really involved with conservation fusion, managing that. So I think it's a really neat step that the government's taking. And I think it has to be all the communities and all the conservation organizations, because there are a lot of conservation organizations in Madagascar. We have to work together.
Yes, good.
So count me in.
Good, awesome. Dr. Sen, what do you think? What's missing and what's important for the scientific and conservation community to do right now?
Yeah, I do agree with all of our panelists. I would say, even I'm not a primatologist, but just a researcher, we have to go beyond the research. I don't mean that the research is not important. It's really important. We have to get knowledge. But as a researcher and also conservationist, we have to go beyond this research and practice your knowledge, and also sharing experience, like all of you said before. So I really like to emphasize always the inclusive approach, and I'm so grateful and happy that I've seen now many local researchers who working with international researchers, and we're having this collaboration. I think it's really, really important. And also I do agree with what it said about the pandemic and what you said, Lucia. It's an opportunity. We don't have a choice. No, we have to put it as our opportunity. And I would say we as Malagasy leaders, it's time to do something. It's time right now. We don't have choice, and after that it will be too late. But we are so grateful because we have so local NGOs like we are just look at our panelists today. They are working on education. It's the key. They are working with international researchers and collaborate with students. So it makes me very optimistic again. And I would say, Malagasy leaders, open your eyes, open mind. It's the time. We have to do something. And it started, like Sylviane and Tsiory said, it's starting now. So it's hopeful.
Thank you very much. Susie, what do you think?
I think I agree with everyone, and I think that there is a way to look at the challenges and the failures as strength points. And I think that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to start Conservation Fusion, because I came from a science background, and it is, like Sylviane said, it's very competitive. And, you know, like, competition isn't all bad. It's what kind of drives us to be our best. But I think that we can also create models that are win-win collaborations. And that's one of the things that we always try to do. It's one of our you know, pillars is collaboration. So I do feel like in settings like this, we have this opportunity. And sometimes, you know, somebody would say, hey, do you know so-and-so's going to be working in Madagascar now? We're going to have another competitor. And I was like, hey, bring them on. Like, Madagascar needs all the help that it can get. And, you know, I know a lot of the panel has been talking about, you know, Malagasy leaders. And I believe so strongly, like, my purpose is to build other people up and make them be the best that they can be. And by doing that, imagine we can build, you know, even just 5 people, and those 5 people can build 3 people, and we can just keep continually empowering people through education and believing in them and offering these opportunities and collaborating together. And so I also will say on that note, like, it's not that easy to just work together. And the truth is, like, we are all competing for the same dollars, for the same resources. And of course, like, it feels good to you know, be doing something that's impactful and meaningful. But I think there's also an opportunity, and we're talking about opportunities today, for us to work together. And when we can set out really clear expectations between organizations, I think that's one of the things I love about working together with the MVP. Like, they are really focused on the research. They're doing this community development. They're working with Malagasy students, and we're just really focusing on education. So it's like we can be the best at education, and they can be the best at what they do. And when we share our information, we talked about you know, scientists and how do we get them involved. Well, we incorporate some of the scientific data that they're collecting with the local community, and it gets them more engaged. And it's not just like the MVPs just come into their area and studying lemurs and doing this reforestation project. It's like, through us, like, working with the school kids and stuff, they're realizing that the forest is like I said, a tangible resource that's going to make their lives better. So I think you know, like, once we can get past all of our egos and things like that, and realize that it's okay to talk about failures and the things that don't work, and share those with other people so that they don't have to go through those same hurdles, there is an opportunity for organizations and scientists and educators and everyone to, you know, work together. And Ed always sees me like, hey, take off those rosy colored glasses. But I do feel like when you are really clear with your expectations, everyone knows what they need to get out of it. And then when we altruistically help each other, we really can make a difference collaboratively.
Great, thank you so much. And this is really exciting, and it's really cool to see that all of you have the same position of we need to collaborate, we need more science, we need a lot of more local and Malagasy leaders working now in Madagascar. And that makes me also like a question myself, like, is there more participation from female scientists in Madagascar? Because Sen has been talking about how important it has to be inclusive. So I think that we cannot talk about inclusivity if we don't talk also about the representation of female scientists in Madagascar. Please, go ahead. Yes. Yes.
Just look at this panel. I've been working with all three Malagasy organizers on this panel over the years in some capacity, whether it's at meetings or conversation and conservation. But we focus on Malagasy students. We've graduated over 60 Malagasy students with their masters or PhDs, and a majority of them are women. And even on our field sites, you know, we have this whole program. We have a single moms program because we have a lot of women that have had kids, and they're on their own. And so we have this whole program of women who work in the afternoon because they have a kids raised, that actually work in our nurseries and help, and they get a wage. And some of the testimonials are quite humbling when they say they saved their life or it allows their kids to go to school. But the women are really the bosses in a lot of our sites. They're in the background sometimes, but they're not really, because we go to them when we want something done. And Susie with Conservation Fusion can attest for that in Monte de Frances and Kinjabatu. It's always the women that are the ones that are going to be the one that get it done. So I agree. I think women and scientists, and I think it should be pushed even more and more because, you know, like Dr. Seheno said, we got to get involved now. And it's the women scientists that need to get involved. You need to hear your voice. So.
Great. Yes?
Okay, this is about scientists, but I would like to say also that in our program involving students, we have more girls than boys. Girls are interested in science, and we didn't do it on purpose because we have like selection. We have an application, and those who are interested fill the application online, and the gender criteria was not something, how do we say, mandatory, not mandatory. It was not part of the selection, but something we noticed is that we have more application from girls than from boys.
Very interesting.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, Sylviane, were you going to say something?
No. I finished.
No.
Yes,
can I say something?
Yes, please.
For my experience, I would like to share with you. When I studied at university, I studied natural sciences, and then I chose the department of animal biology. And at that time, because for the masters, we have to choose a topic, and at that time, I did not realize how important are lemurs. So I think we did a field work in Andasipe, and our prof explained us about that are the lemurs who exist in Andasipe. And from that time, I realized no. And then when I watched the movie about Diane Fossey, who is the saver of the gorilla. So I said, why not? I would like to become because look, for the gorilla, that's a Diane Fossey. For chimps, it's Jane Goodall. And for lemurs, it's Alison Jolie. So I said, okay, I would like to do something for the country. So for me, there are my these people inspired me to work on lemur. Okay.
Great, this is awesome. I'm going to pass it to Lynne for the last question. Thank you, this has been great.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about how scientists and conservationists can help lemur conservation and conservation in Madagascar. How do you think everybody around the world can help? Do you guys have any ideas? If somebody is in the US and they are super interested in lemur conservation, what should they do? How can they support?
Okay.
Sylviane, do you have ideas?
Okay. Recently, I received some emails from people from America, and I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was a kid. I think he was about 10 years old, and he told me, "Could you help me? I'm doing some work on lemur. It's like a presentation. It's an essay. I don't know if it's an essay." And he asked me, "Do you mind to reply on the questions?" So this is a kind of help. Like if people outside of Madagascar would like to do something on lemurs, you can help through disseminate information. You can share information. This is one example. That's for kids. And if you are a tourist, so please, when you are visiting Madagascar, do not, I'm sure you have to buy something from the craft market as souvenirs, but try not to buy something made with rosewood or precious wood, because and don't be ashamed to tell the people at the craft market, this is not good. You are not allowed to sell these things because it's forbidden. And for example, for students, from researchers, if they need your publication, please share for free. So this is a kind of help. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Does anyone else have anything that they wanted to add? Tsiory?
Yes. I agree with Volampeno, but nationally, I would like to say to Malagasy that we are all lucky to be born here in Madagascar. We have so many things. We don't even realize how rich we are. We always listen to the radio and listen to the people say, "Ah, you are a poor country, but you are living under so rich biodiversity richness." Be conscious that it's really true, and we are doing things in our daily life that harm those richness. So it really depends on us. First, we need to be conscious that some things that we are doing every day, like for example, putting garbages everywhere, it can cause harm more than anything else. So we don't ask you to be now like a conservation leader, but just now to be conscious that you can do even small things, and you start with that and you continue. If you are aware that your action counts, just start with small, and you will see that there will be small changes, but constant changes all the time through times. And conservation, I think for me, it's not something. It's really urgent, but it's not something you rush first and then you stop. But you have to do constant effort, even small efforts. And we as Malagasy, we really need to be conscious about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ed, did you have something to add? And there's also some questions about the multi-tiered approach that you were mentioned in your comments. So if you want to talk a little more about that.
Sure. I think I always get this question about how somebody can help, and it depends on the organization and how it's set up. Trying to get funds to them, because every organization is looking for funds to expand programs, to improve programs. I think the first thing you need to do is you need to research the organization and find out what they're doing. And it might, it might get into your heart, a lot easier if you know exactly how the money is going to be spent and what is being done. And so a lot of it is just, you just cannot sit there and not get involved. I say that all the time, just get involved, find a program. There's going to be needs all over the world. There are needs now. We do a lot of patrols right now just to maintain the forest because they're being impacted while they can't be really truly protected. And so a lot of things we talk about multi-tier, there's a lot of opportunities with commercial crops. There's a lot of great programs. Finambi has a great program as far as that goes about generating revenue for the local communities that actually comes back to the local community and in the form of cash. So, I mean, there's a lot of programs with Cocoa, with Robin Sada, with, I'm trying to think, lech, hay, bamboo. There's many different things they can do. There's peppers, there's vanilla, of course, which is growing everywhere across Madagascar. So there's a lot of ways to do that. So the incomes, because usually during the rainy seasons, December, January, February, most people's income is into rice. And so they really have a harder time. And that's usually also when malaria is at its highest. So it's just this impact that keeps on happening year after year. So a lot of the approach that we do, we try to have income so we're not relying on one sole source as far as the community goes, including ourselves. So that's the approach. We do a lot of different commercial crops, and we do woodlots so people can have something to cook their rice, to also build their homes, because that's one of the biggest issues that we always have. I understand I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to pay a fine, but how am I going to build my house? How am I going to cook my food? So we need to be equally excited. And that's one of the hardest things to do, because everybody wants to do the reforestation and corridors and endemic forests for the lemurs. But when you start doing like woodlots, they go, oh, they're going to cut it down. They don't get so excited. So we have to be really, push this other side, because it's the people that are going to be in the end are going to have to save your forest. It's going to not be the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Susie, do you have anything to add about how people can help?
Sure. I think, Tsiory talked about it a little bit. And I think, of course, funding is always great. Everyone always needs funding, but it's not always about the money. There are other ways. Sylviane mentioned, you can learn about lemurs, share what you learn with others. That awareness creates something. I know we talked about in our last panel, like, people can, share with their friends and families. If you do find an organization, like Ed mentioned, that you want to get behind and you can't always support them monetarily, you can always just like their post or follow them or share their pages. And that's always helpful too. And then again, I think we can all do something in our daily lives. Like, we were so surprised here at our own house what we could do by taking small measures. We compost our food scraps. We just recently switched over from using paper towels, paper napkins, to using cloth napkins. And we were just kind of so proud of ourselves about how much, waste we're not generating. We only have trash every 3 weeks that we have to take out because we're composting. We're trying to live more sustainably all the time. So I think, maybe not, I feel like in Madagascar, they're already doing so many of those things. I always share that with people. Like, when you go to the market in Madagascar, you bring your own basket, you fill if you're going to get rice and beans, you bring your own bag and you just scoop it in there, and there's not as much plastic. And so I think that we can make choices in our daily lives. We can learn more, share our knowledge, and of course we can support in any way we can, whether it be financially or just also working together, collaborating. We just did a project with master's level students, and they helped create evaluations for our program. So they're learning about Madagascar and learning about conservation planning. And, we have this awesome evaluation that we can use. So I think there are many opportunities to get involved, and it's just about doing a little bit of research and reaching out to make a collaborative connection.
Yeah. And talking about collaboration, we're getting some comments in. There's a question from Carly on Facebook about if she's asking if there's a more efficient method for information sharing between research groups and NGOs, a sort of centralized repository. And that makes me think of the new Madagascar Lemurs portal, the website that was created a year or so ago. And it's sort of like a forum for people to be sharing research. So, because she's saying peer-reviewed publications take so long to get out. And so it's, you know, time is of the essence. So how can we share information a little more quickly? Does anyone have any ideas other than the Madagascar Lemurs portal?
There's been like the AT.
Oh, wait, you guys are muted.
I think that the ATPC meeting was a huge success, and it was, you know, that's another way, you know, these scientific community type things where people are doing different types of research. You know, we had a lot of our students approached by other researchers, you know, asking about how they're doing this and how to do that. That's one way of doing it, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Even the IPS meeting in Nairobi, it was attended by many Malagasy graduate students and research scientists who presented. Which was really great. I think that was my first IPS meeting was in Madagascar in 1998. And so I think that's, you know, as far as the scientific community, that's one way. And also publishing their work. That's one of the biggest changes I saw on the university level, is that doctorate students, before they can even defend their degree, they have to have 2 papers published, or 1 published and 1 submitted. So I think that's really going to help change their ability to be impactful and get their information out. But I think the portal is also a good way to do it, because there's a huge repository of information on lemurs, where they are, when they were collected, and things like that. So
I guess I'd like to pose like a question also to the panel and those who are tuning in. Like I'm sitting here talking a lot about collaboration, but I know it's not that easy. And I think part of the problem is, like, there is this like intellectual property, and there is this, you know, it's scary to kind of share things. And I don't even know how to explain that exactly.
Publish or perish type thing.
Yeah, and then on the scientific side, of course, it's publish or perish. Like, everybody's trying to name that next new species of lemurs as fast as they can to get their names on the paper and be cited. And that is part of like the beauty of competition. However, I sometimes struggle with it too. And I've had some really great partnerships and collaborations, and I've also had some awful ones, right? So I think through those bad ones, I've learned things. And one of the things, I guess, I could make the suggestion, but I'd also would love to know what other people think about how we can work together better, is that if there's really clear expectations, and if your partner that you're working with is altruistic, because sometimes, you know, people will want to work together, but like, it doesn't feel right, or it doesn't truly feel like a win-win collaboration. And so, I mean, I feel like Conservation Fusion, we're at this point where we can choose who our partners are, but not everybody, you know, has that ability. Or sometimes it feels like, hey, you know, you're just giving all your stuff away, and then there's no reciprocation. So I would love to hear how maybe other people might think we could move forward in, you know, altruistic or you know, win-win collaborations. Like, I guess the only suggestion I have is creating these really clear expectations on both sides. But if anybody has anything else that they could add.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Yeah.
I think that the problem in Madagascar is that the people are afraid. They're gonna steal my idea. That's the main problem. So I think that to resolve that, as Susie said, the partnership should be written. I mean, there should be an agreement between. So each has advantage, gets some advantage. So it's like a win-win, because that's the problem. Because, for example, everyone wants to become a leader. If I want to, for example, if I want to work in Kianzafatu, maybe Aid is afraid, he's gonna take my idea, my project. But as I said, it should be, that's a problem, because as you can see in Madagascar is split up with different NGOs. Ranmafana, that's PAT, for example. Kirindi, that's a team of Kapler, for example. Ina Karafanska, team of Hanover. So I think that's a problem. So it should be a clear partnership, and it's written what are at the advantage for me and for you. So I think that is the problem. That's the lack of problem. So I think that as I said, that this is one of the problem here. So there is no clear collaboration. But I think that maybe networking is the best way to do that. As I said, that if for example, if I see something from Kianzafatu and I would like to work in Samalaza, so I can ask Aid, I would like to replicate your work, not steal your work. Like, could you help me if I would like to implement reforestation project in Samalaza, for example? So I think that networking and this is the effective way and rapid way to work, to be a collaborator.
Can I add something about?
Yes.
Yeah, I do agree with what Susie said and Sylviane, but I'm also want to say that talking about international collaboration, inclusivity, we should be aware that we have also different cultures and mentalities between Malagasy and maybe American or French. And sometimes I can say that as Malagasy, we are afraid that if you say something, that we always expect that, oh, maybe we cannot say that. Oh, no. What do you need saying? Oh, I don't know what I need. And I do agree. We have to learn each other. And at the beginning of process, when we want to implement research, when we want to implement activities in an NGO, and we have to learn each other and say, maybe it takes time to us as Malagasy. When you foreigner, you ask us, okay, what do you need from me? No, I don't know, maybe money. No, cannot say that. Oh, I have some ideas, but maybe it's wrong. I cannot say that. So it takes time, but we should take this time and make everything clear. Needs, what your needs, what's my needs. And I think that it's a bit challenging at the beginning, but after that, when we learn each other, it can work.
Yeah,
and
that's important.
Yeah. Can I add one thing? Yeah. I think that one of the problems is the language barrier, because most of the people working here are English-speaking people. I don't speak English. I'm afraid. I have some idea, but I cannot express what, so that's the language barrier. But I think that once your English is good enough to work for conservation, sometimes we are not open-minded people. Sometimes we are shy, as CM said, that we should to be open-minded people, and to so.
Can I add something?
Yes.
I really see the Malagasy way of thinking when listening listening to Volampeno and saying that's really true. We are afraid about the language we use and about how we express it. Mostly if it's in English, you're true, Volampeno. But something we should keep in mind is the real issue. We are working toward conservation, toward research, and that's something bigger than the small competition that exists between groups of researchers or students. If we have that in mind, I think that's the first thing we should keep in mind, that we need to do such work because it's important, and the rest will follow. And it's sure we will need time to accommodate ourselves, speaking English, expressing ourselves and stuff like that. But what really matters is the issue, and the issue is really big. And it's not. I think it's not time to wonder. Will this person steal this idea from me? Because if you are clear from the beginning that this project should be like this, these are your ideas, and you express yourself clearly to the people you want to collaborate with, those issues will just melt away. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, communication is important. Ed, did you have
also, like Sylviane said, I know Ed wants to say something, but it's like, hey, if you borrow and if someone helps you with something, like just credit them. I think it's also about creating like a mutual respect. And if we can do that, like more people will want to collaborate.
I think, Dr. Seheno, you're right. It's about networking. And if you just look at all the questions that are coming up, this is something that's, you know, I think Lemur Conservation Network and World Lemur Day that's promoting this or pushing this networking. And you have all these questions, and you know, they're going to have contact information. It sort of builds upon that. And I think this is the problem with a lot. I always say this about the IUCN Lemur status. 6 years is too long. Things are happening too fast in Madagascar, and by the time we come back to talk about something, we have 5 or 6 more lemurs that are critically endangered, and so, you know, which we do, you know. So I think a lot of this is we have to take the time, schedule meetings like this, you know, have one on reforestation, have one on networking, you know, just anything, because I think one of the hardest things is being shy. We have a lot of, you know, when we first started working in Janavanna, they didn't even know how to say hello in English. And now we have people that I think of, you know, Fredo and Teo Luke and Harry Lala and Croissant and all these MVP employees that now speak probably better English than I do. And they were, at first it was really hard. They were really shy about getting in front of a camera, but get your people and staff on camera, on phones, you know, promoting something they're doing, and it builds their confidence. And that's a lot of it. Self-esteem is so important in life, and by providing that, you can really do it. So I don't know about all these questions, if we're going to go back and answer them live. Yeah, or
I'm wondering, so there's a few questions about ecotourism, and then there's some questions about reaching remote communities. I don't know if anybody has a preference for which we talk about.
I can jump right on in there. The remote things, we have a very similar situation with our reforestation program, where we have our nurseries and the communities that are right on the road. Now, Madagascar has built all their communities like right on the road in some cases, which is, I just don't know how you can live with a car driving by your house that close. It always terrifies me when I get news from our cities and the places where we work. But we always have an issue about the remote because they don't get that day-to-day interaction we do. And so we've sort of changed some of our programs or reforestation programs to just address to them, that allows them to get more involved. And this reforestation it's not a static thing. We are very dynamic. We're changing things constantly. And so you know, I'll be glad to talk about reforestation and how to do it. You know, you got to shut me up probably, but it's really, you have to change. You have to adapt because it's not going to be that simple. I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. And so even a remote situation like this, I don't know, how do you address a village that is not next to a large forest that can do ecotourism? Because everybody thinks ecotourism is the solution. We're finding out that it's not the panacea for all, you know, our problems, because then you have, you know, COVID-19. And so we really need to really think outside the box a lot. And this is where we have these meetings, you know, we have outside the box discussions and how we can help each other and come up with ideas. Everybody has a different solution that might, and some might be perfect for someone else. So I really applaud this opportunity to hear these panelists and these specialists talk about Madagascar. I think it's really important that we bring these things out, and all these questions about ecotourism and getting involved, just communicate. That's what we've learned about the pandemic. We learned how to do Zoom and all these other things all the time. So just keep it up. We can't stop once, you know, things get better.
Yeah, we're coming up to 10:30, so I think we want to close it out, but I'm putting the Lemur Conservation Network email in the chat. So if we didn't get to your question and you want to find out some more information, you can email us and we can either answer you or put you in touch with somebody that we think would be able to help out with that, or point you to an organization that might be, you know, have more information for you. So thank you all so much to all of our panelists. Does anybody have any final words that they want to say before we head out here?
Can I say something?
Thank you so much to everybody who organized the events, and to all the panelists and everybody who joined. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Sylviane, did you have something?
Yeah, so thank you again, and just a take-home message for our audience. So just I would say something, just 3 tips. Be a good environmental citizen, be collaborative, and be positive. So that's the key if you want to success and to contribute to make a difference for lemur conservation. Yeah.
Yes, that is awesome. Those are some great closing words. Tsiory, did you want to add something?
Yes, please. It was a real pleasure to participate in this discussion today. And I think I would like to ask is we should do more like this, right? This discussion, and involving more panelists from different horizons. Yeah, that's just a suggestion. And thank you all for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
No, thank you all for coming, and yes, I agree with you. We need to have more of these chats. Lemur conservation can be really frustrating, and sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. So I think it's really necessary to be constantly communicating what's working and why we have to be hopeful and work really, really hard. So we'll try to have more of these chats coming on, and to try to promote and encourage like these same spaces from your organizations and from your fields as well. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us and for these amazing panelists. This was great.
Yes.
Lynne, do you want to say something else?
No, that's it. Just everybody, thank you so much for participating. And if you want to learn more about lemur conservation, you can go to lemurconservationnetwork.org. And if you're interested in ecotourism, we have another conversation tomorrow at the same time, and that will be with 4 travel experts in Madagascar, and they're going to be talking about different areas you can go to and what there is to do there, and lemurs you can see there and everything. So I know we can't all travel right now, unfortunately, but hopefully soon we'll be able to get back to Madagascar, so we want to help you plan your trips. So
Happy World Lemur Festival.
Yes, have a great weekend. Friday, there's also a whole bunch of events going on. So
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.